Having seen all the documents that have been submitted by the nominee, having also witnessed his work in my home province in Lanao del Sur and having gone around the islands and in Maguindanao, I have seen the relevance and the import of having a cabinet secretary that is a forester, that has served in the community, that has had a success story or an exemplar to show in the Liguasan Marsh area. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, and before also filing my support for the Secretary, manifest that this department has one of the biggest impacts in this region and reform arm movement. If, Mr. Speaker, we recall, Mindanao population and ARMM specifically has one of the most fertile and therefore highly populated regions. But with the energy crisis, Mr. Speaker, and disasters and dry spells, the moral agenda on environment has to be very clearly propelled and stewarded by a very strong environment team, by a strong community supporting their secretary, and by strong Penros and Penros that will respect their regional government. Mr. Speaker, in my home province, children are dying because of amoeba. Some of those who are checked in the Amay Pakpak hospital are suffering from waterborne diseases. The close linkage, Mr. Speaker, between culture, health, population, and environment cannot be ignored. Therefore, an environmental secretary is not just an earth warrior. He is also a health advocate. He is also a SUSDEV or Sustainable Development Advocate. We as Muslims practice 5 times prayer, derive our inspiration and moral inspiration from the environment, where we have to use water as our means of cleansing. We women especially need to always cleanse ourselves and give birth and depend on environment for the birthing process when we are pregnant 9 months. Mr. Speaker, it is so sad that some of our areas, and in our areas, it is looked at as one of the hot spots of the Philippine government. We are endangered in terms of forestry, in terms of species. In my home province, endemic species in Lake Lanao have been gone for 40 years. What we need is really a very strong marshalling of an environment department. On the mining, the effects, Mr. Speaker, as said on mining by the Ibon Foundation, is 3. Destruction of plant and animal habitat and human settlement, land subsidence, underground mining increases erosion, silting of lakes and streams, and overburdening our waste and acid drainage. There is also an effect on air pollution by mining and waste generation. Mr. Speaker, while we respect the right of companies to extract resources in our areas, we must also always protect our environment, Mr. Speaker. And lastly, to mention, in Liguasan Marsh, there is a wealth of 1,800 migratory birds and 5 fauna. But Mr. Speaker, as Chairman of Education, I would like to see that children are celebrating the existence of animals and fauna in terms of parks, in terms of environmental exhibits that we can experience, in terms of websites that promote and celebrate our environmental wealth, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Secretary, please take our suggestions. In our area, we're the very first victim of an executive order that was passed by the regional government on illegal logging. We must prove that what we are doing is for the good of our generation and leads to the framework agreement, the future Bangsamoro entity, this environment that we can truly say we took care of. First of all, please assert, after having several systemic studies on co-management, can you in your time and in your administration assert and even propose to the President to pass an executive order recognizing the co-management of DNR National, DENR-ARMM, and Lanao del Sur province over Lake Lanao, the very biggest watershed, in the country. First, the major and biggest watershed in Mindanao. Second, sir, can you please look at alliance formations such as in the Iliana Bay, where LGUs and the DNR and the region and the national partner in a concrete partnership to to work on climate change and other varied concerns. In alliances that were organized in regions, they were able to save a lot of resources in future disasters that are now confronting us almost every week or every month, Mr. Speaker. And also, Liguasan, in Maguindanao, they also have the Iranon Development Council. Mr. Speaker, more of the reforms that are needed, Secretary, are personnel, protecting the GSI's rights of your employees, and of course, financial systems and management systems are needed. How, in the municipal level, can our environmental advocacies be felt? As Chair of Education, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, how can you push us in the DepEd sector to push environmental education to be cascaded? In the Armed Regional Youth Congress that was convened by our Chair of Education in the CA, Ms. Norhani Lau, anti-plastic and anti-styro was strongly passed as a resolution by the young people of ARLM. Mr. Secretary, these are not proposals from the wind. They have been systematically brought by different congregations and conventions from civil society. Now it is time for government, as what the Organic Act tells us, that we must protect our environment. It is the state that protects, and it is not the private corporation. It is not the young people that have the power. It is you, this environment department, that can push us in terms of policy. Because the MMAs have been already passed, the Organic Act is here for you to use before the Supreme Court, if need be. So, Mr. Secretary and the DNR department, contractual tayo, but that doesn't mean you don't have any power over your community and your family. Malaki po ang departamento. Ngayon yung inyong paglalakad, inyong sweldo, ang ating pagsasama dito sa ARMM in the coming 5 months na lang po, gamitin natin po sa maximization of our role in the reform movement po. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's a vote for yes for the Secretary.
Honorable Tila Irene.